We begin tonight with two leading Republican senators taking on President Trump. One of them standing on the floor of the Senate late today and saying, "I rise to say enough." Arizona's Jeff Flake adding, "I will not be complicit." It comes just hours after Republican Senator Bob Corker reignited his very public feud with the president. Corker calling the president, quote, "an utterly untruthful president." President Trump unleashing a Twitter attack, and tonight the White House responding. ABC's Mary Bruce leading us off.
Standing on the Senate floor, the Republican senator delivered an extraordinary indictment of the Republican president, calling Donald Trump reckless, outrageous, and undignified.
I rise today to say enough.
Arizona Senator Jeff Flake says he will not run for re-election because he is so disgusted.
The personal attacks, the threats against principles, freedoms and institution, the flagrant disregard for truth and decency, the reckless provocations.
Holy crap, you guys. The biggest political explosion of 2025 just went off, and it's not what anyone expected. Elon Musk and President Trump are in an all-out war that's making every other political feud look like a friendly disagreement. We're talking about nuclear-level drama here. Musk just dropped a bombshell claiming that Trump appears in unreleased Jeffrey Epstein files. And Trump fired back by threatening to cut all of SpaceX and Starlink contracts. Come on, are you kidding me? This is the kind of stuff that breaks the internet and reshapes American politics overnight. And it all started because Musk thinks he single-handedly won Trump the election and deserves all the credit for it. Let me paint you the picture of how insane this has gotten. On June 5th, Musk went completely ballistic on social media, claiming that without his $290 million in election spending, Trump would have lost. He literally said this will be the last election, suggesting that Trump owes his entire presidency to Musk's money. But then, and this is where it gets absolutely wild, Musk decided that wasn't enough of a bombshell. He started claiming that Trump appears in unreleased Jeffrey Epstein files, and that this is the real reason why those files haven't been made public yet. No evidence, no proof, just straight-up accusations against the sitting president. This is wild, and it shows you exactly how far Musk was willing to go to hurt Trump when their bromance fell apart. And Trump's response? Oh man, Trump went nuclear right back at him. He called Musk a very disappointing person and threatened to cancel all of his government subsidies and contracts. We're talking about billions of dollars in SpaceX deals, Starlink contracts with the military, and Tesla's government incentives. Trump basically told the richest man in the world that he could destroy his companies with the stroke of a pen. Can you believe this? These two guys went from being best friends to trying to obliterate each other in the span of like 24 hours. But here's what makes this even crazier. The stock market completely freaked out when this feud exploded. Tesla stock plunged 14% in a single day. Trump media fell 8%. We're talking about billions of dollars in market value just vanishing because these two egos couldn't get along. And this isn't just some Twitter beef between celebrities. This is the President of the United States going to war with the guy who controls America's space program and a huge chunk of our satellite communications. The national security implications here are absolutely massive. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Most often for the pettiest and most personal reasons.
And to his colleagues, a warning that, quote, silence can equal complicity.
We have fooled ourselves for long enough that a pivot to governing is right around the corner. A return to civility and stability right behind it. We know better than that.
Calling it a matter of duty and conscience, Flake now joins a wave of top Republicans ripping into the president. This morning, it was Senator Bob Corker letting loose on GMA.
I would just like for him to leave it to the professionals for a while.
In response, the president unloaded in a barrage of tweets, claiming he refused to endorse Corker, saying he couldn't get elected dog catcher, and calling the influential head of the Foreign Relations Committee a lightweight, incompetent, adding people like little Bob Corker have set the U.S. way back. Corker, who has called the Trump White House an adult daycare center, tweeting back,
What started this whole mess? Musk got mad because Trump didn't give him enough credit for winning the election. Yeah, that's right. The richest man in the world threw a tantrum because he felt unappreciated. Musk spent $290 million through his America PAC to help Trump win, and apparently he expected to be treated like the kingmaker who delivered the presidency. But when Trump started making decisions that Musk didn't like, including signing a tax bill that Musk opposed, everything went sideways fast. And then Musk did something that nobody saw coming. He started floating the idea of creating a new political party called the America Party. Like, this guy seriously thinks he can just break off from the Republican Party and start his own political movement because Trump didn't kiss the ring enough. The audacity is absolutely staggering. We're talking about someone who thinks his money gives him the right to basically own American politics. But here's the thing that's really driving me crazy about this whole situation. Musk's claim about the Epstein files is completely unsubstantiated. He's just throwing around accusations with zero evidence, hoping that if he says it loud enough and often enough, people will believe it. This is the same guy who claims to care about truth and free speech, but he's literally spreading conspiracy theories about the President of the United States. The hypocrisy is just incredible. And the timing of all this couldn't be worse for Republicans heading into the 2026 midterms. Just when the party should be unified and focused on keeping control of Congress, we've got this massive internal war breaking out between Trump and one of the most influential people in his coalition. Democrats are probably popping champagne right now, watching the MAGA movement tear itself apart from the inside. What makes this even more dangerous is that Musk controls critical infrastructure that America depends on. SpaceX launches our military satellites. Starlink provides internet to remote areas and war zones. Tesla is a major player in the electric vehicle transition that the government is pushing. When you have the president threatening to cut ties with companies that provide essential services, you're talking about potential national security risks. So buckle up, because this feud is just getting started. We've got two of the biggest egos in America going head to head, and neither one of them is backing down. This could reshape the entire political landscape, destroy billions of dollars in business relationships, and create massive problems for America's space program and defense capabilities. And all because Musk couldn't handle not being treated like the most important person in Trump's orbit. Let's dive deeper into this absolute train wreck, because what we're watching here is way more than just a personal feud between two famous guys. This is about power, money, and the future of American politics. And honestly, it's getting scary how far both sides are willing to go to hurt each other. So Musk spent $290 million to help Trump win the election through his America PAC, and apparently he thought that meant he was going to be treated like some kind of co-president or shadow leader. But Trump, being Trump, wasn't about to let anyone think they owned him, especially not some tech billionaire who thinks money can buy political influence. And that's where this whole thing started to go sideways really fast. But here's what most people don't understand about the deeper dynamics here. Musk wasn't just writing checks and staying quiet. He was actively trying to influence policy decisions, pushing for specific tax policies, regulatory changes that would benefit his companies, and trying to get his people appointed to key government positions. When Trump started making decisions that went against Musk's interests, like signing that tax bill that Musk opposed, it became clear that Musk thought his money gave him veto power over presidential decisions. Come on, man, are you kidding me? No president in history would tolerate that kind of arrangement, especially not Trump, who's famously protective of his independence and authority. And then Musk made the nuclear decision to go public with his complaints. Instead of handling this like adults behind closed doors, he took to social media and started airing all their dirty laundry for the world to see. He claimed that without his financial support, Trump would have lost the election. He said this will be the last election, which sounds like he's suggesting Trump is going to become some kind of dictator. But the most explosive part was when he started claiming that Trump appears in unreleased Jeffrey Epstein files without providing any evidence whatsoever. This is absolutely wild, because you're talking about the sitting president of the United States being accused of being connected to a convicted sex trafficker, and the accusation is coming from someone who was supposed to be his ally. Now let's talk about what Trump's response tells us about how he operates when someone crosses him. Trump didn't just fire back with angry tweets or public statements. He went straight for Musk's business interests, threatening to cancel government contracts and subsidies that are worth billions of dollars. This is classic Trump. When you attack him, he hits back where it hurts the most, which in Musk's case is his bottom line. SpaceX has massive contracts with NASA and the Department of Defense. Starlink provides internet services to military operations and remote areas. Tesla benefits from federal tax incentives and government fleet purchases. Trump was basically telling Musk that he could destroy his entire business empire if he wanted to. The power play here is absolutely incredible to watch. But here's where things get really interesting from a political strategy perspective. Musk's decision to float the idea of creating an America party shows just how delusional he's become about his own political influence. Like, this guy seriously thinks he can just break away from the Republican Party and start his own political movement because he's got money and a social media platform. But politics doesn't work that way. You can't just buy yourself a political party and expect millions of voters to follow you because you're rich. Trump understood this when he took over the Republican Party. He didn't try to create something from scratch. He worked within the existing system and gradually reshaped it to fit his vision. And the timing of this feud couldn't be worse for the broader conservative movement. We're heading into the 2026 midterms where Republicans need to stay unified to maintain control of Congress. Instead, we've got this massive public war breaking out between Trump and one of the most high-profile figures in the MAGA coalition. Democrats are absolutely loving this because they get to sit back and watch their opponents tear each other apart without having to do anything themselves. Every day this feud continues is another day that Republicans aren't talking about their policy agenda or attacking Democratic positions. But let's talk about the national security implications here because they're absolutely massive and not getting enough attention. Musk controls companies that are critical to America's defense and space capabilities. SpaceX is basically our primary way of getting astronauts and equipment to the International Space Station. Starlink provides internet connectivity to Ukraine and other allies in conflict zones. Tesla is a major part of the electric vehicle transition that affects everything from energy independence to manufacturing competitiveness. When you have the president threatening to cut ties with these companies, you're potentially creating huge vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. And here's what's really crazy about Musk's Epstein allegations. He's making these claims without providing any evidence whatsoever. This is the same guy who bought Twitter supposedly to promote free speech and combat misinformation, but he's literally spreading conspiracy theories about the President of the United States. The hypocrisy is just staggering. If anyone else made these kinds of unsubstantiated allegations about a sitting president, they'd be facing serious legal consequences. But because Musk is rich and famous, he thinks he can say whatever he wants without any accountability. The market reaction to this feud also tells you everything you need to know about how serious this has gotten. When Tesla stock drops 14% in a single day, that's not just traders being nervous. That's the market pricing in the real possibility that Trump could actually follow through on his threats to hurt Musk's business interests. And when Trump media falls 8%, that shows investors are worried about how this fight could damage Trump's political brand and business empire. We're talking about billions of dollars in market value being wiped out because two egos can't get along. But here's the part that really gets me fired up about this whole situation. Both Trump and Musk are acting like children instead of the leaders they're supposed to be. Trump should be focused on governing the country and implementing his agenda, not getting into public feuds with business leaders. And Musk should be focused on running his companies and advancing technology, not trying to play political kingmaker and throwing tantrums when he doesn't get his way. The American people deserve better than watching these two guys use their platforms to try to destroy each other. And the really scary part is that this could be just the beginning. If Musk actually tries to start his own political party, it could split the conservative vote and hand elections to Democrats. If Trump follows through on his threats to cancel government contracts with Musk's companies, it could damage America's space program and defense capabilities. If this feud escalates further, it could create lasting damage to the MAGA movement and conservative politics in general. We're potentially watching the self-destruction of one of the most successful political coalitions in recent American history, all because two billionaires couldn't figure out how to work together. So let's break this whole explosive situation down into what actually matters, because there's way too much drama and noise around this story, and we need to focus on the real implications for American politics and national security. First point, and this is absolutely crucial, Elon Musk has completely overplayed his hand and shown that he fundamentally misunderstands how political power actually works in America. The guy spent $290 million helping Trump win the election, and apparently thought that gave him the right to dictate policy decisions and government appointments. But that's not how democracy works, even when you're dealing with someone as transactional as Trump. Presidents don't get owned by their donors, especially not Trump, who's famously protective of his independence and authority. When Musk started demanding specific policy changes and threatening to withdraw support if he didn't get his way, he crossed a line that no president would tolerate. And Trump's response was swift and brutal. He went straight for Musk's business interests, threatening to cancel government contracts and subsidies worth billions of dollars. This shows you exactly how Trump deals with people who think they can buy influence over him. He doesn't negotiate with that kind of pressure. He destroys it. Second point, Musk's decision to make unsubstantiated allegations about Trump appearing in Jeffrey Epstein files is not just reckless, it's potentially criminal depending on how far he takes it. This is the sitting president of the United States being accused of connections to a convicted sex trafficker, and the accusation is coming from someone with no evidence whatsoever. Musk is basically spreading conspiracy theories because he's mad about not getting enough credit for Trump's election victory. The irony here is incredible. This is the same guy who bought Twitter supposedly to combat misinformation and promote free speech, but he's literally using his platform to spread lies about the president. If anyone else made these kinds of allegations without evidence, they'd be facing serious legal consequences for defamation or worse. But because Musk is rich and famous, he thinks he can say whatever he wants without accountability. This kind of behavior is exactly what's wrong with our political discourse. Wealthy people thinking their money gives them the right to destroy reputations and spread conspiracy theories without consequences. Third point, the national security implications of this feud are absolutely terrifying and not getting nearly enough attention from the media or political leaders. Musk controls companies that are critical to America's defense capabilities, space program, and communications infrastructure. SpaceX is our primary way of getting astronauts and equipment to the International Space Station. Starlink provides internet connectivity to Ukraine and other allies in conflict zones around the world. Tesla is a major part of the electric vehicle transition that affects everything from energy independence to manufacturing competitiveness with China. When you have the president threatening to cut ties with these companies because of a personal feud, you're potentially creating massive vulnerabilities in systems that America depends on for national security. What happens if this escalates and Trump actually follows through on canceling SpaceX contracts? Do we just hand over control of our space program to other countries? What happens to our military communications if Starlink gets cut off from government contracts? These are life and death issues that are being treated like a reality TV show drama, and that's absolutely unacceptable. Fourth point, and this might be the most important long-term consequence, this feud could completely reshape the conservative political landscape in ways that benefit Democrats and hurt Republican chances in 2026 and beyond. Musk's threat to create an America party isn't just empty posturing. He's got the money and platform to actually try it, even if it's doomed to fail. But even a failed third-party effort could split the conservative vote and hand elections to Democrats across the country. We've seen this happen before when wealthy individuals try to buy their way into politics without understanding how coalition building actually works. Meanwhile, every day this feud continues is another day that Republicans aren't unified behind a coherent message heading into the midterms. Democrats get to sit back and watch their opponents tear each other apart while they focus on their own agenda and messaging. The timing couldn't be worse for conservative politics, and both Trump and Musk should be ashamed of putting their personal egos ahead of the movement that got them where they are. But here's what gives me some hope in this whole mess. The American people are smart enough to see through this kind of petty drama, and they're going to hold both sides accountable for acting like children instead of leaders. Trump's approval ratings have remained relatively stable despite this feud, which suggests that voters understand this is more about Musk's ego than any real policy disagreements. And Musk's companies are facing real financial consequences from investors who don't want to see critical infrastructure companies get dragged into political warfare. The market is basically forcing both sides to grow up and find a way to work together, because the economic costs of this continued fighting are too high for everyone involved. The broader lesson here is about what happens when you have incredibly wealthy individuals who think their money gives them the right to control political outcomes. Musk genuinely believed that his financial support meant he could dictate policy decisions and government appointments, but that's not how American democracy is supposed to work. Trump understood this dynamic and shut it down immediately, even though it meant losing a major source of financial support and creating a powerful enemy. That actually shows real leadership, putting the integrity of the office ahead of personal financial interests. But the way he's handled the public feuding and threats against Musk's companies shows that he's still struggling with the impulse to turn everything into personal drama instead of focusing on governing. So what happens next in this political soap opera? Well, both sides have way too much to lose to let this escalate much further. Musk needs government contracts to keep his companies profitable and growing. Trump needs Musk's companies to continue providing critical services to the military and space program. Eventually, they're going to have to find a way to work together, probably through intermediaries who can help them save face while backing down from their most extreme positions. But the damage to their relationship and to conservative unity is already done, and it's going to take a long time to repair. The real winners in all of this are Democrats who get to watch their opponents destroy each other while they focus on building their own coalition for 2026. And the real losers are the American people who deserve leaders focused on solving problems instead of fighting over who gets credit for election victories. This whole episode shows exactly what's wrong with our political system when it becomes dominated by billionaire egos instead of public service and democratic accountability. The bottom line is this: both Trump and Musk need to grow up and remember that they have responsibilities that go way beyond their personal feuds. Trump is the President of the United States with obligations to protect national security and advance American interests. Musk controls critical infrastructure that millions of Americans depend on for everything from internet connectivity to space exploration. When personal drama threatens those responsibilities, both sides need to step back and focus on what actually matters for the country. Otherwise, we're all going to pay the price for their inability to work together like adults. This is going to be one wild ride watching how this all plays out.